Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Summa salatu wassalamu ala nabiyyina Muhammadin sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ala kulli man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin. Wa ba'da, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatih wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khairan for another opportunity to remind myself and all of you, including those who are watching online, about some important aspects of our deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of the heaven and the earth and everything that is in them and between, enjoined upon the son of Adam, alayhi salatu wassalam, some duties, some tasks they need to perform. Among those are the 5 daily prayer, and among those tasks is fasting the month of Ramadan. So in our last presentation, we went through the nullifiers of Islam. Those are the things which, if anybody does them or say some of them, will find themselves outside the fold of Islam. Reason we want to bring this to attention because a lot of people may not be aware of these nullifiers. So it is important that when we are worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we make sure the act of worship we are engaged into are pleasing and accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not thinking that we are doing right and end up not having any reward for the effort in which we were engaged into. So since we will not have another occasion for my presentation in MCHK before the beginning of the month of Ramadan, that is upon us, inshallah, within the next few weeks, I, in coordination with the management with MCHK, to do this reminder so that when the month of Ramadan comes, the new Muslims or those Muslims who are not aware of these nullifiers will not fall into those acts that will nullify their fast. It is important as believers that we keep our focus, we keep our consciousness in the purpose for which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent us on this earth. That is to worship Allah, not in our own terms and condition, but to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He has enjoined upon us in His own terms and condition. How the message reached us through our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his noble companion. So without any distortion to that original message, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran in Surah Al-Mu'minun, He said, "Ahasiban nas annama khalaqnakum abasan wa annakum ilayna la turja'un." He said, do you think that we have created you in vain? Do you think that you are created just for play? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He did not have any plan. He just decided to create us without any goal. No, we will be returned back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will be cautioned. We will be asked about our existence on this earth. And in another ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Yahsabul insan an yutraka suda. Do mankind think he will be left alone to go and do what pleases him without any control, without any cautioning? No. The reason we are here is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to make sure that worship is in line with His pleasure. How do we identify what is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? A lot of people, they think they can decide this by themselves. This is why a lot of belief outside the fold of Islam, they decide to create their own way of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is not acceptable in the sight of Allah. For any act of worship to be accepted, it has to go in line with the command of Allah as shown by that messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So coming to the nullifiers of Islam, Allah mentioned nullifiers of fasting. I mean, Allah mentioned about the fasting of Ramadan in the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah from ayah 182 toward 186 is mentioning some rules and regulations and basically giving us why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or how he has enjoined fasting upon us. And in ayah 185, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Shahru Ramadan allazi unzila fihi al-Quran, hudan linnas wa bayinatin min al-huda wal furqan. He said, fast the month of Ramadan on which the Quran was revealed. One of the reasons Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning is that we should fast the month of Ramadan because the Quran was revealed in this month. And the Quran is what? Is a criterion between the wrong and the right. It's a criterion for judgment. So Allah is enjoining upon us to fast during the month of Ramadan to honor the completion of his constitution for guidance to mankind. In that same ayat, he said, so any one of you who is present that month should fast it, should fast, and anyone who is ill or on a journey should make up the lost days by fasting on other days later. Now you can see in this, the ruling is starting to come up. Who should fast, when we should fast, and how we should fast. It's not according to the way we wish, it's according to the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has enjoined it. So who should be fasting? Fasting is enjoined upon the Muslims for both genders, regardless of social position. Whether one is a king or a servant, we all should fast. Whether one is a leader or a simple citizen, we should all fast. Whether one is rich or poor, we should all fast. It also enjoined upon a sane person, somebody who is not crazy, and someone who has not lost their mind. That's why one of the goals of the Sharia is to preserve our intellect and make sure that our mind and reasoning are intact. And it is enjoined upon those who are adults. Not only anybody can fast, it's upon those who have reached the age of discernment. They can distinguish what is right and what is wrong. It is enjoined upon someone who is a resident as opposed to a traveler. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by his mercy, he gave concession to the travelers. Because they will go through some hardship and so forth and many other reasons. Allah gave them concession. They can break the fast and make it up later. And it is enjoined on a healthy person as opposed to one who is sick. Healthy person here means somebody who is fit physically and health-wise. For old people who are not able to fast, due to old age, this obligation is lifted upon them. For pregnant women who are going through hardship, for breastfeeding women, and so forth. People in that category, they are exempt from fasting for that particular moment they're going through the hardship. For the elderly, the replacement of fasting is also mentioned in the Quran. That is to feed instead of fasting. We will go back to that inshallah later on. And for the women particularly, there is an additional things. They should be free from their menstrual period, or for nifas, which is the postnatal bleeding or prenatal bleeding as well. So in both cases, fasting is lifted upon them for that particular period. Now, coming to the nullifiers of the fast, there are basically 8. I don't know why I write there 7. There are 8 items that will nullify one's fasting. They are categorized into 2, subdivided into 2. Number 1, and the most serious one, is a fast when one break the fast and the person has not only to make it up, but also to offer an expiation, to pay a penalty for breaking that fast. And the second category is only to make up the days as a result of breaking the fast. Number 1 category that is very severe is only 1 out of the 8 items, is only 1 that will require you, if you nullify your fast through that, you will have to make up the fast and also to pay the expiation, or to what is called to expiate. Khafar, yes. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned this in an authentic narration that we are not going through here. And all the scholars, the previous righteous followers, they agreed upon this, that it falls under, according to that same hadith, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, that if anybody does that, they will have to free a slave, or to fast 2 consecutive months, or to feed 60 people. 60 people. So in that, only one opinion, the opinion of Imam Malik, rahimahullah, that came to give the person a choice whether to only fast 2 consecutive months, or to feed 60 people instead of freeing a slave. But as it is mentioned in the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, it should be in the same category. Number 1 thing you have to do is to free a slave. Now, where do you find a slave in our time to free for falling into that category of nullifier? If you nullify your fast through that, it means number 1 thing to expiate is to free a slave. If you don't have a slave to free, then you will have to fast 2 consecutive months. This here, fasting 2 consecutive months, meaning the lunar calendars. It's not the Gregorian calendar you will follow. Or some scholars even though allowed for one to fast 60 days consecutively. If you break this fast on these 60 days consecutively, the counter will go back to 0. You will have to start it all over again. You cannot fast 20 days and take a break and then say, I will start another day, it will count 21. No, it's 60 or 2 consecutive months, basically. And feeding 60 people. So the severity of this is to make people aware that this is a serious sin. If anybody does it during the month of Ramadan daytime, it is something very serious. That's why the Sharia sometimes put some safeguard barriers so that nobody transgresses this. This is also the case of cutting off the hand of the thief, and is also the punishment by stoning, is also the lashing. The Sharia is putting these severe punishment on the people so that it will deter, it will serve an example so that nobody will just jump into them. Before you do that, you need to think twice. Number one in that category, I mean, the only category that require one to expiate the sin, expiate for breaking the fast during the day is to have a marital relation during the day in Ramadan. So this is the most serious and the most important because it is of a sinful nature. It invalidates the fast for one to have conjugal relation during the daytime in Ramadan. And that has to be done deliberately and of one's free will. This condition has to be met. Somebody who forget, they don't fall into this category. Out of forgetfulness, because it goes back to the last ayat of Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, He will not hold us responsible for things we forget, for things that are forced upon us, or for something that, I don't remember the third one. This is in response to the dua of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that Allah do not hold my ummah for things that are in this category. So it will invalidate the fast, and the person has to repent, and they have to expiation. Going back to the categories I mentioned, is to free a slave, to fast 2 consecutive months is one of them, not both of them, or 3 options. And the third one is to feed 64 people, or 60 people. And the second category is causing one to discharge deliberately again. How you pronounce it, brother? I don't know. Masturbation. Anybody who engages into this act during the day in Ramadan and then they discharge, they have broken their fast. This is one of the major sin, basically. One of the major sin, if anybody falls into it, because it falls under a provoked desire. Remember, the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to fast is mentioned in the Quran is that we will achieve taqwa. We will achieve God consciousness. We will achieve fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within ourselves. And then we are required to control ourselves during the fast, even on the halal things that are halal for us. We are asked to control those things and abstain from them. And the very basic things, they are desires of our feelings and desires of our stomach. These are the main 3 mentioned: eating, drinking, and sexual desires. These have to be controlled from before dawn until sunset. Anything that is causing you to go against these 3 is causing the person to step directly on the pillars of fasting. The fasting is built upon these 3. Anything that goes against that will invalidate the fast. So causing that is a desire which is the person is asked to control, to put under control. Whoever does that during the month of Ramadan has to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and refrain from eating and drinking during that particular day, even though they have broken the fast, but they're not allowed to eat or to drink until the day is done, but they still have to make it up after the month of Ramadan is complete. So one has to count the number of days they have done this during the month of Ramadan and pay back an equivalent number. Number 3, that definitely, so one of the sins I already mentioned is one of the sins that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us to abstain from is mentioned in the Quran, not even in the Hadith. You will find it in Surah Al-Mu'minun when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning the qualities of the believers. And one of the quality, he said, are those who abstain from relations except from their spouses and what their right hand possess. Anything beyond that is falling into the sin. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. So the third category in this is eating and drinking. We all know that eating and drinking from before dawn until sunset will break the fast. Now you will find that a lot of non-Muslim will ask you, even drinking water, even drinking, because for them, I mean, for some of them, they think, oh, okay, you only don't have to eat, or a certain type of food you are not allowed to eat, but you are allowed to eat another category of food. You can have a snack, you can have a drink, a sip of water when it's too hot. No, this is not allowed. The purpose of the fast itself is to abstain. You see what is halal and something that is allowed for you right in front of you, even though you desire it, you abstain, you hold yourself. This is the training we learn during the month of Ramadan, so that after Ramadan, when you go into any situation, you see now the haram thing, you are already trained to control yourself against the halal already. So there is nothing that will stop you to control yourself from the haram. The Prophet Muhammad said, when he was advising the companion, he said, snuff up the water deep into your nose when you are making wudu, except when you are fasting. This hadith is reported by Imam Tirmidhi. Why the Prophet ﷺ is mentioning that the person who is making wudu should bring the water deep into the nose? And then he made an exception. The exception is that when you are fasting, the water going through your nose, if it goes over and then goes to your throat and get into the stomach, it will invalidate the fast. So outside the month of Ramadan, or when one is not fasting, we are encouraged to clean our nose truly during wudu. But when we are fasting, you should measure it and make sure the water does not go beyond, because it comes under another category that we'll mention soon, that is anything that replaces eating and drinking. Anything that replaces eating and or drinking will invalidate the fast. Those things that are regarded as the same as eating and drinking because it's a replacement. Like what? Blood transfusion. Because we know the blood is mostly produced from the food we are eating. His blood is made up from the food and the drink that we are having. Otherwise, there is no blood production in the body. So, blood transfusion into the body during the month of Ramadan, when one is fasting, will invalidate the fast because it's kind of feeding to the body. It will invalidate the fast. And receiving nutrients, nourishing substances via injections, needles, except those administered for medical purpose, for medical treatment, such as insulin. Somebody who is a diabetes, they need to take insulin. This will not invalidate the fast, even though there is a difference of opinion among the scholars. It's a contemporary issue. But when you look at the purpose for which fasting is enjoined, and the things that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the hadith, when you analyze the whole thing, you will find that taking the insulin is not part of eating and drinking, because you need to go back to the foundation, the asl, that anything that is eating and drinking or a replacement for it will invalidate the fast. And taking the insulin will not invalidate the fast because it doesn't give the body any nutrient. Yes, brother. Inhalers for people who have asthma, for example. Again, difference of opinion, but the right understanding, inshallah, is that it will not invalidate the fast, because this also is not giving you any energy. It doesn't give, it's not a food supplement. It's just helping you to breath, to control and expand whatever is need to do within your chest, so that your breath will be regular and it will be fine, inshallah. Yes, sir. Blood donation, I was coming to that later, but blood donation will invalidate the fast. According to the vast majority of the scholars, donating blood while one is fasting will invalidate the fast, because it falls under a category in which the Prophet ﷺ, during the month of Ramadan, he saw somebody doing cupping. Is it hijama? Hijama. He mentioned in an authentic narration by Imam Tirmizi, again, also classed as Sahih by Sheikh Albani, rahimahullah, that the person who is doing the cupping and to whom the cupping is done have both broken their fast. But then again, the Prophet ﷺ is seen having cupping during a time when he was fasting. How do you reconcile these two now? He's telling in one narration that anybody, those two, the one who is doing the cupping and the one to whom it's done, have broken their fast, both of them. And now he himself, he has done cupping while he was fasting. And these, both of them are authentic reports. Well, the commentators of the first hadith who said that the one who is doing the cupping and the one to whom is done has broken their fast, is because they were backbiting somebody else. So you have to understand the context. Based on this, the scholars said having the cupping done during the month of Ramadan, or when one is fasting, does not invalidate the fast. But since the report that came to the early, some, not all of them, some early scholars, they didn't receive this chain of narration in an authentic fashion, they disqualified the hadith, and they said this will invalidate the fasting, and a lot of the scholars are still holding that position. But what comes in the end, what appears to be the correct opinion, inshallah, is that the cupping itself will not invalidate the fasting. However, the blood donation, if it is taken out of the body, then is coming into the next category that we will mention, is it will invalidate the fast, inshallah. We will go to that. Another one is kidney dialysis, in which blood is extracted from the body, cleaned, and then returned to the body with additional chemical substances, where they will add sugar or salt into that blood before putting it back into the body. This will invalidate the fast, because we will go to the asl again and see what sugar and salt does to the body, or do to the body. It gives it energy. So it's fall under the category of eating and drinking. That will invalidate the fast, and the person has to make it up outside, after the month of Ramadan, if they recover. If they don't, they have to offer feeding as a replacement. Letting blood by means of cupping. This is, as I said, this is not a totally agreed opinion. The Prophet ﷺ said the cupper and the one for whom the cupping is done have both invalidated their fast, and this is reported by Imam Abu Dawood. So donating blood is considered as same as cupping, because it affects the body the same way. This is the explanation the scholars are giving. Based on that, it is not permissible for anybody who is fasting to donate blood unless it is essential. And if the person does, they have to make up that day. For example, if I find myself in a position where somebody needs blood and I'm the only suitable donor, at that particular moment, and this blood is needed to save that life, I will volunteer to give blood to that person, and it will invalidate my fast. I will only have to make it up one day for that day after the month of Ramadan is completed. So if person suffers a nosebleed, this will not invalidate the fast. The fasting of the person is still valid, because this is not provoked. You are not the one voluntarily going and causing it. And I can see some faces you are getting now. Okay, how do I reconcile? Again, I mentioned the Prophet ﷺ, the context of this hadith by Imam Abu Dawood is that these two people, they were talking about somebody, while when we are fasting, we are asked to abstain from backbiting. In an authentic narration, other side, the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah is not in need of your abstaining of food and drink if you cannot control your tongue. You are talking about other people. So the scholars who consider this one as invalidating the fast, they go back to the asl and say, putting these two hadiths together, anybody who is backbiting people while they are fasting, their fast is not valid. Anyway, because we don't know the intention, we cannot read the mind of the people, we cannot understand the full context of this, we don't make any judgment about that. We leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if anybody find themselves into this situation, the best option for them will be to fast another day if they know they have backbiting somebody during a time when they were fasting. That is the safe side. Because otherwise, it's like coming to one of the hadiths the Prophet ﷺ said, what is between us and them is the prayer, the salat. Anybody who leaves it has committed kufr. Again, how do you understand this hadith? Anybody who purposely leave the prayer is not a Muslim. Simple as that. But can we go and say this person is a kafir? No. We have no right to do that. So it's in the same situation here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Yes, brother. Mm-hmm. Right, brushing the teeth and drops of blood coming, or you notice it from that, you will not invalidate the fasting, because that is not the type of bleeding that is mentioned here. The type of bleeding that is mentioned here is serious blood coming from the body that can be noticed. It's not drops that you will find in saliva, or some people who will cough, for example, and they have bad flu or whatever. They cough and they spit. They see portions of blood in their spit. This will not invalidate the fast, because it's not the type of bleeding that is intended in this situation here. Cutting, for example, somebody who is a cook, or sisters who are preparing, what do you call it, iftar? Okay. Preparing iftar, and then by accident you cut your finger and blood coming out. This will not invalidate the fast also, because it's not intentional, and also it's not excessive bleeding that is mentioned or intended in this particular situation here. So it has to be put into context. It has to look at the intention also. What is the intention that caused it? Brushing the teeth with the mishwak may cause some blood to come from the gum, and that will not invalidate the fast, inshallah. The sixth category is voluntarily vomiting. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever vomits involuntarily does not have to make up the fast, but whoever vomits deliberately, let him make up the fast. This is clear as daylight. Anybody who purposely vomit, they cause it by themselves, whether you smell something that will make you feel you vomit, or you put your fingers into your mouth or throat, whatever, and then it causes the person to vomit, this will invalidate the fast. Even if in this hadith the Prophet did not mention the second part, the first part is sufficient to take the opposite. He said, whoever vomits involuntarily does not have to make up the fast. If this was stopped right there, we will say whoever vomit deliberately have to make up the fast, even if it wasn't mentioned in this hadith. Because the opposite of something and its opposite cannot be the same. You can have the cow and the milk and the skin of the cow and the butter and everything to yourself. No, you have to separate the things. So Imam al-Mundhir, he said, the scholars are in agreement that the fast of one who vomits deliberately is invalidated and has to make up his fast later on. This is the early scholars looking at the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, looking at the action of the companion. They are of 100% certainty that whoever vomits voluntarily has to make up the fast. If it happened on a multiple time during the month of Ramadan, they will have to make up the same number of days they have done it. Yes, sir. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ told us in another narration, I didn't mention this hadith, if somebody have something coming from their throat, not the saliva, kind of burping, some people, right, they will burp and something will come. Yeah, this one you are not allowed to swallow it again because it will invalidate the fast. You have to spit it. If the person is ignorant or is by mistake, this is another category. We'll go to it, inshallah. There is a caution that I put toward the end. I will explain it further, inshallah. And then the seventh category is menstrual bleeding and nifas. Nifas is the bleeding that comes for women when they give birth. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari, he said, is it not the case that when she gets her period, she does not pray or fast? So meaning that when a lady sees her period during the month of Ramadan, it will invalidate the fast. And she has to stop praying for that particular moment. Now, if a woman sees the blood of her period or nifas, her fast become invalid even if it's only remaining few minutes before sunset. Because there are some people who will start calculating, oh, I've fasted the whole day. Just this last minute, I have to make up the whole day. No. Yes, you have to make up the whole day if it happened before sunset. On the other side, if a woman feels that her period has started but no blood comes out until after sunset, her fast is still valid, even if you have the feeling that it is starting. If, on the other side, a woman sees her menstrual period stop during the night while she's asleep, she wake up in the morning, even though she has not taken bath, and then she has intended, if my period stop, I will start fasting. Even she wake up late and she did not take bath before sunrise or before Fajr, she continue fasting, her fast is still valid, inshallah. And it's the same concession that is given to men who will have some discharge and then they are not able to do to take a bath before Fajr time. In that case, all they have to do is to continue fasting. They can take bath and do their prayer as normal. The fasting is still valid, inshallah. There are some few things we need to explain around here because this is not only about the fasting, it's also about the prayer. It's about the prayer. If a woman was having her period and it stops, let's say now Maghrib is around 6:35, 40, and it stops around 6 o'clock. Around 6 o'clock, the periods stop. What she has to do about the prayer? If she can finish taking the bath before sunset, she can pray Zuhur. I'm talking about Zuhur, not Asr. If she can pray Zuhur 4 rakat and pray 2 rakat or at least 1 rakat before sunset, she has to make up the Zuhur of that day. She has to make up the Zuhur of that day even though it's already 6 o'clock. Some people will tell you, oh, the time for Zuhur has elapsed. They don't have to make it. But no, Zuhur and Asr, they have a combined time. They have together until sunset or just before sunset. These are things sisters need to be aware of. On the other side, before Fajr, if a woman was having a period and then it stopped during the night before Fajr time or just before Fajr, if she is able to take a bath, offer 4 rakat of Isha and offer at least 1 rakat, 4 rakat of Isha before the Adhan of Fajr, then she has to pay back the Isha time. Because the Isha time is very vast until the Adhan of Fajr is given. So in these two situations, people should be aware when it comes to the fasting and to the prayer. These things, we should keep them in mind, inshallah. And then the 8th that is not commonly talked about is leaving Islam. Leaving Islam will make somebody lose their fast. Voluntarily declaring that one has left or has renounced Islam, or doing or saying anything that nullifies Islam will indirectly or directly nullify the fasting of the person. Because when we mentioned earlier, fasting is enjoined upon, number 1, on a Muslim. So if the person is outside the fold of Islam, their fasting is nothing but exercise, only abstaining from eating and drinking, maybe for diet purpose, but they have no reward in the sight of Allah. Fasting has to be inside the gate of Islam. The person has to be a Muslim, and it has to be intended. It's not just abstaining. It has to be intended that I'm fasting for the sake of Allah, not by statement, but having the intention. As I mentioned, all the things that nullify Islam nullify also the act of worship. That is the prayer, that is the fasting, that is the zakat, that is the hajj. It's pointless to do any of the action if the person is outside the fold of Islam. Another category that is not talked about very often is somebody who is fasting. They decide with firm intention that they have broken their fast. If somebody during the day decide, I'm not fasting anymore, even if they have not eaten or drinking, this will invalidate the fast. Just by having the firm intention that you are not anymore fasting. By telling somebody I'm not fasting and you know you are fasting, this will not invalidate the fast, however. Subhanallah. But if you have the firm intention within yourself that you are not fasting, whether you say it or you just have that, even if you don't eat or drink, it will invalidate the fast. SubhanAllah. This is something people need to be aware of, because if the intention is not there, the intention has changed. Any act of worship has to be intended for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything that goes against that intention will nullify the act. Intention is playing a very big role in our act of worship. Yes, brother. That's fine. You don't have to. The brother is asking for those who are listening, if a non-Muslim is giving you food, for example, during the day in Ramadan, and you don't want to tell them that you are fasting, you just say, no, yeah, I'm fine, thank you. You don't have, this will not invalidate your fast. They insist sometimes, they say, you must eat, you must eat. You say, no, I'm good. I don't want to eat. Even though even if you tell them you are not fasting, it will not invalidate the fast. The statement on its own will not invalidate the fast. Having the firm intention will invalidate the fast. Making the statement that I'm not fasting while the person is fasting is telling a lie. It's, falling under another category of a sin that is telling lies. That has its own punishment, but it will not affect the fasting, inshallah. So, this is important to note. Now, question. All these nullifiers we mentioned here, apart from the menses and nifas for the woman, they will only nullify the fast when three conditions are met. Number one, the person was aware of the ruling and not ignorant of it. A new Muslim, somebody who just embraced Islam few months or few days, and then they are fasting. They fall into any of these categories, they don't know about it, their fast is still valid. It does not nullify it. So the element of knowledge is there, as opposed to ignorance. Number two condition, the person did it knowingly and not out of forgetfulness. I already mentioned, if you forget, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lifts out the condition of nullification on that. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in an authentic narration that whoever among you eats or drink while they are fasting, let them continue, let them complete. Let them complete. He used the word complete their fast. So the scholars of hadith, they look at this, they say something that is complete doesn't need replacement. You don't have to replace, because the Prophet ﷺ said, let him complete the day. Meaning that the fast is complete already, you don't have to make it up. If he said, let him finish the day, that would have been a different thing. However, Imam Malik rahimahullah is the one who again here took an opposite view. He said you still have to make it up if you forget. For example, in the madhab of Imam Malik, if you forget during the day you drink, it is considered you are forgiven the sin of drinking during the day, but you still have to make up the day. Allah has forgiven you for drinking while you are fasting, but He has not forgiven you for the fast itself. This is a reasoning. And then we have another opinion, that is the Zahiri Madhab. They, for example, say it is okay for someone to pray without any type of clothing at night. Do we pray while we don't wear anything? No, but they are not. They have their evidence. You find it strange, but they said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ لِبَاسًا. They take this literally to say, during the night, because Allah had made the night libas, meaning a cover, you are covered. You can't dismiss the opinion. You can't dismiss it. So when we say the scholars agree, we are talking about the main school of thought that are recognized. Even the Zahiri Madhab is recognized, but the scholars said if this madhab or this school of thought is disagreeing with the other four, then we have to dismiss the other, this opinion. And they have different other things. When they say, for example, Allah mentioned in the Quran, whoever among you is traveling or is sick, they should not fast. In the Zahiri Mazhab, if you fast while you are traveling, for them the fast is not valid, even if you are able to. The moment you enter into any journey, for example, I'm going to Hong Kong airport, it takes about 40 minutes, I should not fast. Of course, this is when the condition here, the concession given is a journey that somebody will undertake in which they will find the hardship. They will find it difficult to fast. And another opinion is for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, when you are reading the Quran, you should, when you read the Quran, he said, not when you are reading. When you read the Quran, say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, basically, not bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Then in this understanding, they will tell you, no, you don't say bismillah, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim in the beginning. You read until you finish, then you say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Yes, it is. So I don't want to go on and on into that. And then the third condition, that the person did it by choice. Again, you see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us the options here. Nobody has any excuse in the sight of Allah. If you are forced to do something, He will not hold you responsible for it. He will hold responsible the one who is forcing you. That's why we see, very unfortunately, in some part of the world, our Muslim brothers and sisters are forced to eat during Ramadan against their will. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold those who are forcing them into that situation responsible. And if they did this, they eat and drink something they don't like, but they hate it within themselves, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will mark them as somebody who has been fasting. Because this is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ when this companion was forced to say bad things about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Islam. And the Prophet asked him, what was the status of your heart? He said, I was indeed in pain knowing I'm doing this. He said, if they catch you and they force you, do the same thing again. Meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will lift the pen upon you. Something that is forced upon you, Allah will not hold you responsible. And there are a few more things in this. Don't consider these are the only things that will invalidate the fasting. When we are fasting, we should be very, very cautious, observing certain manners and discipline, following certain etiquette, that we will not by any way or form reduce the value of our fasting, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised that fasting is for Himself. He is the one who will reward it. And this is something very, very high. It's mentioned in Hadith Al-Qudsi. Very serious. Any act of the worship is rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through other means. But this act of worship is Allah who is giving the price. May Allah accept from us and make us among the people who will have their fast accepted, because Allah mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ, mentioned there is a gate in Jannah reserved for those who are fasting. And when he was giving this information, he told Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, he said, I'm hoping you will be one of them. May Allah make us one among those who will enter Jannah by the gate of Ar-Rayyan. Ameen. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yes, brother. Question first. Yes, brother. Brother is asking an important question that a lot of people, they will want to turn off the light Or they want to reverse back the sun a little bit to avoid it coming up until they eat sur. Should we, when the adhan of Fajr is given, should we eat suhoor? The short answer is no. If you are already eating and you hear the adhan, you should hasten to finish what you are eating, but you should not continue eating. If the adhan is already given before you start eating suhoor, you should not start in the first place. Inshallah, that's the correct understanding, because the adhan of the Fajr is the one that will separate the day and the night. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned something important here. He said, let the adhan of Abdurrahman bin Maktoum, what is his name again? One of the companion, the blind companion who was used to give the adhan, for whom Surah Al-Abatha was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ. Abasa wa tawalla. You remember that? This blind companion, he used to make the adhan for Fajr. He used to make the adhan for Fajr much earlier than than the time when the true dawn will start. Why? Anybody has an idea? Because he was a blind man. He will just wake up and think, oh, Fajr is already up, and start making the adhan. Sometimes it's people who will tell him, oh, it's Fajr already, and he will start making the adhan. So the Prophet ﷺ said, let not any one of you stop their eating and drinking, meaning suhoor, by the adhan of Bun Maktoum. But when Bilal radiallahu anhu make the adhan, you should not eat anymore, because that's the time the Iqama will follow very shortly. So meaning that Fajr is up already. So we need to be careful of that. How to distinguish? If we have started eating suhoor and suddenly we hear the adhan, you should hasten very quickly, not in our own estimate in our time, not more than 3 minutes more, you should continue eating. You should finish what you are eating instantly, quickly, and inshallah, you will continue fasting. But if you hear the adhan and then the azan finish, you start eating, this is not acceptable anymore, inshallah. From your app, Muslim Pro or whatever you call it. No, the time is very much calculated in our time now. Because the first signal of the rising of the sun, the first rays of the sun will come when the sun is 12 degree below the horizon. That's when the first beam will come out. This is still not true dawn. This is called the false dawn. When it's, however, 8 degree below the horizon, we are not allowed to eat anymore because Fajr has entered. And you will do the calculation. Inshallah, our brother will give you a timetable. You will just follow that, inshallah. If you have the way we set up calendars in our time now, the calendars are very precise. We should not give it 2 minutes. You can give it few seconds or a minute at max, because the time we are using now is very precise. The time is calculated by the observatory and it's very accurate. It's not like estimate as before. So you should really be very cautious when it comes to following that. When it says 4:40, for example, you should not eat after 4:42. 4:41, you still have a concession. But 4:42 is, because if you are, I don't know, none of us is specialists on this, but we study the rotation of the sun and the movement of the earth, right? If you go back to that, you will see how the sun is edging, coming from below the horizon and up, how the rays will come out. After the 8th degree, it's already down. You can't do anything anymore. In this, the timing is calculated according to that.
So what if you are eating and you don't realize about the time? Suddenly you see the time, oh, it's like 43. It's supposed to stop at 40. It's already 43, but you've been eating.
Right. Another important question that is also explained to us. There is a principle in the usul al-fiqh called the presumption of continuity. Presumption of continuity. Meaning that, for example, if I am clean, I cannot assume by all means now I'm not having wudu. I remember the last time I went into the washroom and made wudu. I cannot, by just thinking that I don't have wudu, assume that I don't have wudu. This I will consider I have wudu until it is proven that I don't have wudu. However, if I remember now, from the time I made wudu, until this time I have entered a toilet, but whether I use the toilet or not, now there is an element there you have to consider. In this case, I will consider I don't have wudu. The same now, you apply this principle to your questions. You find yourself during dawn, before suhoor is finishing. And then you start eating, you don't see the time. Whose fault is it? It's your fault. You didn't check the time. If you eat anything that is going beyond that particular time, this forgetfulness does not apply. You have to make up the day. This the Sharia of Allah. When he finished mentioning about fasting, he said, Tilka hududullah. This is the barriers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The scholars are very, very much cautious about that. Whenever Allah said Tilka hududullah, they don't give you any room to go near that. So using this principle that we should not go near the barriers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order not to fall into the fire, they say you make up the day. Before the end of the time, that's why latecomers should not be given the opportunity to talk.
No, I am late waiting is talking about
If somebody find themselves during dawn that they still have few minutes left before the adhan is given, we're talking about here the 4th adhan of Fajr, not the adhan that is following the Iqamah. They will continue eating until that adhan is given. If you start and you hear the adhan, you will continue until the adhan is complete. The moment the adhan is complete, you have to stop. Because the adhan, if it's done by somebody who knows how to do it properly, it will take at least a minute. So that you have 1 minute to drink or to eat. Basically, what is wise in this situation is to stop eating, instead get a drink, because that's what the body needs more. In that particular time, you have already taken iftar, or you've eaten throughout the night at some point. You delay the suhoor. Delaying the suhoor does not mean to cross over. You can delay the suhoor until the last moment. This is recommended. The Prophet ﷺ said, my ummah, meaning this nation, is in good as long as they observe, they delay the suhoor, and they hasten the iftar. The moment sun sets, you know for sure sun has gone down the horizon. You should open your fast. You should not hold, because that's something we are advised by the Prophet. Delaying the iftar is contrary to the sunnah. We have some people who think by doing that they're doing some good, but no, we are enjoined to fast from dawn until sunset. This is what the hadith is mentioning. Anybody going against that, they're going against the sunnah. What happened to their fast or anything, this is between them and Allah, but they're going against the sunnah. Is
recommended, like, if we have people who want to be traveling during the iftar time, we should have something with us in case the fast opens before we get to the masjid.
sure. Basically, breaking the fast can be done by the intention only. If you don't have anything, people find themselves at certain point, they don't have any food. How they open their fast? They intend that they are opening their fast. By just swallowing, you swallow your saliva as a way of opening the fast, that is sufficient to open the fast. You don't have to carry bottles of water and bags of date here and there. If you do, fine. But by intending that you have opened your fast, halas, that's done. Yes, sir.
I'm asking, like, the time right to cut fast. Tell me the time right to cut fast. Now, that time you are working, maybe you cut fast around 8 o'clock. You never drink water, nothing, because you are working. Like maybe like 1 hour after you cut fast. Good or not?
That again is coming onto the situation where you are delaying the opening the fast. If you find yourself for any reason you are not able to open the fast, whether because you don't have food or you are on a journey or you are at work that is not helping you to stop, and you will have the intention that I have opened my fast. That is sufficient. But however, coming back to your question here, nobody should put themselves in a situation in that, because you still have to offer the Maghrib prayer. The Maghrib prayer is very, very important. I'm not saying it's more important than the fast. But if anybody is fasting and they don't pray on time, it will affect the status of their fast. So this is important because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, Inna salata kanat ala al-mu'minina kitaban mawquta. It is on its time. So in that you have options either to intend that you have broken the fast, but hasten to pray. That's important. Yes, ma'am.
There's a brother he was asking, he's going to be leaving about 1 hour's time before the sunset.
Right.
Shall he fast that day? If yes, how should he calculate the time of iftar, as he will be traveling either towards or away from the sun?
Important. If you are a traveler, somebody departing from Hong Kong, for example, they're going toward west, where they will be going following the sun. Meaning that if you were in Hong Kong, in an hour time, the sun will set. But if you're taking the flight now and then the plane is going westward and then you're still following the sun, as you are going, you still see the sun. It is advised you cannot open your fast. You cannot open your fast. You still have to fast, by the way. You still have to fast in answer to the question. You still have to fast, and you are not allowed to open the fast until you are sure the sun has set, whenever it's set, or you have fasted at least 20 hours.
Can we calculate from the date of origin? Yeah. So if it is too far away.
In this, let me tell you, you cannot look at the time Hong Kong sunset is and then follow that, because where you are, the sun has not set there. You follow the timing of your location. You cannot follow. That's why the act of worship are enjoined on a time at a particular location. We cannot follow the prayer time of another country when we are in Hong Kong. The same way you cannot follow the prayer time of another country, the same you cannot open the fast of another, of Hong Kong while you are in another country.
So what about if
If you are landed, it's okay, but still
If you landed,
if you are still on the air,
still on the air, you still know the sun is there, you still have to fast. Yes, this is the right way to do. You should not break the fast until you are sure the sun has set where you are. It's where you are. You follow the location where you are, not the location of origin.
at the time of travel, it is
I give you an
recommended not to fast.
exactly.
Where is the
No.
But the question is, if before you travel,
Yeah, you have to fast.
you're not on travel yet,
You are not on travel yet.
and the sun hasn't risen yet.
But once you intend to take the journey, then because even for the
I tell you another thing.
even for the salat also you can do.
Let me help you.
home itself.
Let me help you. I give you an example of the salat now, because you come into the salat. You are not allowed, you are not considered as a traveler to combine your prayer until you have left, not your home, the city where you are living by your shoulders. You cannot see it on your left or right. You have left it behind. You cannot shorten the prayer in this kind of condition, even though a lot of people are doing it. A lot of people, they said, I'm traveling today, or I'm already at the airport, I'm combining Dhuhr and Asr and leave. No, you have not left yet. You have not left yet. Sorry. This is something important and technical when it comes to the understanding of the Islamic guideline. We should not do these things because we are just relaxed and all that. The concessions are given. The concessions are given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we should not abuse them. And these guidelines are there explained in details by the scholars, how to apply them. And they didn't invent these things. And they took it in the life of the Prophet ﷺ when he used to go in many places, expedition here, expedition there. It based on that. This timing for the prayer, for the fasting is all going back to that. It's not somebody who is coming with their own personal rulings. It's gone back there, they find it, they put it into the context. So the prayer and the fasting, these are fundamentals for any believer. You cannot take them as you wish. You follow the guideline as the Prophet ﷺ did it. And that's how he did. He never shortened the prayer while stationed, except cases that warrant that. For example, extreme weather. We know certain cases in the Sirah. And some situation when basically, yes, that's the only case when he shortened the prayer when he was, he combined the prayer when he was stationed. Otherwise, he will not. Any clarification?
Yeah, brother. If one is traveling and he takes decision that he's traveling already, so he cannot shorten the prayer
Until he enters the journey, he cannot shorten the prayer. Making the decision is.
He left Simsachoi city. He left already in other places.
Brother, when we come to this one, it does not mean the location you are living here. It means you have gone beyond a certain distance that is not measured by kilometers or anything. Is that you have completely left your area of residence. That's when you are allowed to shorten the prayer.
Somebody asked me, are you a Hong Kong resident?
Right.
And nobody asked me, are you Hong Kong resident?
Exactly.
They asked me Hong Kong resident.
You are in Hong Kong.
Right, so that means I'm a resident of this country.
I am a resident of Simsachoi.
No.
In Hong Kong.
Wow.
No, it doesn't work that.
I'm a resident of that building, in that home, on that floor, that flat, I'm that resident.
life, if you take it,
Mhm.
it is not like Hong Kong, with
They traveled journeys. They went
journey.
they went
Because he left
distance.
his place, that is enough.
They went distances, right? So this traveling, brother, we should not take it as light and abuse the concession that is given.
Distance is no more.
Distance is there. The journey are there. You cannot shorten the prayer simply because you are going out of Kinshasa. You shorten the prayer
Into the journey.
even if you are already at Hong Kong airport. It does not warrant you to shorten the prayer. I know you will find somebody who will give you indication that yes, it's fine to do, but the correct understanding is that we are not allowed to shorten the prayer unless we are already on the journey. You have started the journey, and the same thing applies to the fasting. Exactly. I'm talking about the concession is not based on your own home and the surrounding houses. It's based on a journey that you have undertaken already. You are out of that zone. If somebody sees you there, you are a stranger in that region. You are not local anymore. And from here to Hong Kong airport, you're still local. You're still in the same zone. How long it take you to get there? Less than an hour, you are there. That's why I said we cannot. There are people who are saying is the same as the 84 kilometers. But this, we avoid going into that kind of measurement. You know why also? This is not jumping out of the blue. It is measured the distance the Prophet ﷺ traveled from one point to another. In our data, in our own time here, they measure that, they found is equivalent to this distance. And then they say this. It's not because they're making it up. It's just like when the Prophet ﷺ said, you are out of Hong Kong now. You can shorten your prayer. You can combine it. You're out of Hong Kong, brother. And also, let's be a little bit more details. The shortening of the prayer is a concession, it's not the default. It's a concession that we are giving, we are advised and encouraged to take it, but that is not the default position. You'll see some people finding themselves, they say, I'm traveling, they go to the masjid, they don't pray with the imam for zuhur until he finished 2 rakat. And they join him, they said, I'm only praying 2 because I'm traveling. Or they pray 2 with the imam, they sit down there and say, okay, I'm done. Because of the misconception we have abusing this concession given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the default position, we should pray full. That is the default position. Concession is there, you feel tired, you've gone into the journey, you shorten it and you combine. But subhanallah. Inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Barakallah feek.
Allah is the one.